parent. This is something that I got involved with a number of years ago. These individuals dedicate their lives to keep us and our children safe, and you're going to hear from them. And let's start now. We'll just introduce them, and let me recognize them here, and then we'll do the introduction. From the State Attorney's Office, we have Assistant State Attorney Thomas Haggerty. Sir, I want to also mention something about our State Attorney, your boss, who I've had the privilege of working with a number of years on issues dealing with cyber crimes, identity theft, protecting our children. She's probably one of the most aggressive on those issues in the country, and so I am exceedingly grateful for her leadership. And thank you, sir, for what you do day in, day out. We have from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, we have Special Agent Heather Armstrong. She's for the Crimes Against Children Squad. We also take the opportunity, who's down there, somebody that we've worked with for years, also from the FBI, who's also, by the way, not only the FBI, he's a heck of a community leader, and that's Mr. Jeff Greenwood. Thank you, sir, for all your work. From Homeland Security Investigations, we have Cyber Crimes Special Agent out of Florida, who's been with us for a while now. Thank you, sir, for your work. And from Miami-Dade Police Department, the Sexual Crimes Bureau, Internet Crimes Against Children Unit, somebody who unfortunately is busier than we would like to see, is also an incredible public servant, Detective Jose Cavallo is here. Thank you, sir. And last but clearly not least, we have the Education Director and School Coordinator from the Citizens Crime Watch for Miami-Dade County, Joy Bishop. Joy, thank you again. Again, this forum is to educate ourselves as to how to protect our kids, our children, young and not that young, from these predators that are out there who, by the way, are experts at what they do. They are professional predators. And they are very good at what they do. I think after today, I hope this will be productive for you. I'm sure that it will be. And the first time I ever saw this, it frankly scared me. It really, really scared me. It woke me up and it scared me. So I think you'll find it instructive and helpful. So with that, let's just get right to the program. And we'll start with Thomas Haggerty, who's the Assistant State Attorney from, again, our State Attorney's Office here in Miami. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Congressman. My name is Tom Haggerty. I'm from the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office. I'm in the Cyber Crimes Unit, Senior Prosecutor in the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office. I want to thank the Congressman, Congressman Diaz-Balart, for bringing awareness to this issue. I want to thank him for having law enforcement here today. It's people like the Congressman who are friends of the children of Miami-Dade County that help protect them. Now, I'm a prosecutor in the Cyber Crimes Unit. The type of cases that we prosecute in the unit are child pornography, online child exploitation, online solicitation of minors. We prosecute hacking, and we also prosecute identity. I'll speak a little bit about each of them today. Now, there are two types of, what I'd like to say, cases involving children of these things. The first type of case is a case where we have a victim. We have to meet the minor's family, the minor victim, and talk to them about the case. Now, the other type of case is the case, or are the cases that I enjoy a lot more. And they're the cases without victims. The cases where parents or law enforcement have stopped the predators before they struck. They're the cases where we're stopping them off the street before terrible things were done. Now, things were different when I was growing up. My parents had it a little bit easier. The cases or the situations that they had to worry about were strangers. Strangers abducting children off the street. When I was growing up, I remember learning about stranger danger. I remember being taught that at school, and I remember being taught that by my parents. Now, that was what they had to fear when I was growing up. But things are a little bit more difficult now. stalk in our parks. Right now, predators are using the internet. Predators enter your home and you won't even know it. They're using social media, they're using computers, they're using cell phones to meet, solicit, and lure Miami-Dade's children. Before, you had to worry about what was going on outside your home. Now, parents have to worry about what happens inside their home. They have to be ever more vigilant than they ever had before. Now, first I want to talk about the problems and the situations that parents have seen or that I have seen occur in Miami-Dade County. And then I'll talk a little bit about solutions. The Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office is a local agency, a state agency, but we work with local police, state police, and federal police to prosecute predators. One of the type of cases that we see, and you may be a little bit familiar from the TV show To Catch a Predator, is online enticement cases. These are cases where predators are going online and attempting to seduce or solicit minors for their own purposes. But times have changed, and you don't need to worry just about computers anymore. You need to worry about cell phones. As technology has progressed, predators, as Congressman Diaz-Balart said, become more honed, more skilled, and they adopt the technology that your children are using. So they may be using the apps that you don't even know or you're not even familiar with to help or to seduce your children. Another situation that we're seeing in Miami-Dade County is online sex trafficking. Predators these days are now using social media to recruit, seduce minors into prostitution. And they're also using social media and other pages, web pages, to essentially pimp out these minors. They do this by using photos and stories of glamorous lifestyles, money, clothes, cars, jewelry, and parties. And they seduce the children who are maybe in a little bit of a tough spot at home, maybe aren't getting the appropriate attention, maybe getting bullied at school. And they seduce them with these things, these trappings and these riches, and say, you can have this too. Come be our friend. Come party with us. Come hang out. And then pretty soon they get caught up in the lifestyle, and these kids, they get in over their head. And pretty soon they're doing things that they don't want to do, and they're being forced. Now, another thing that we're seeing in Miami-Dade County is, I guess, what's being called sexting. Now, this is not just a problem for our baseless children. It's a problem with adults. Children end up, or children or adults, sending maybe photographs that they think are private, but eventually don't become private. Now, the problem with sexting is you never think that the person that you send these photographs to, the person that you care about, the person that you think cares about you, you never think that they're ever going to show anyone else, or they're ever going to harm you with it. And it should be a warning for both adults, children, young adults, teenagers, that when you send a photograph of yourself, you're releasing control. Now, you think that you're the person in control, but you're not anymore, because that person has the photo and they can do whatever they want with it. There are things called ex-girlfriend, ex-boyfriend revenge sites, where they'll post your photo online, they'll post a link to your Facebook page, and they'll post your cell phone number and ask the people on the internet to call, to contact you on Facebook. It results in cyberbullying and oftentimes harm to children, including suicide. Now, part and parcel with the distribution of photographs goes into another aspect that we see today, and that's digital blackmail, digital extortion. Because when you release that photograph, or you put that photograph online, maybe even in your own email account, you lose control of that photograph. Hackers, or anyone with access to your account, or anyone that actually has access to that photograph, can use that to blackmail. We've seen situations in Miami-Dade County, we see threats where someone sends a photograph to another person and says, here's a photo of you in a compromising situation. You better do this. You better take more photos, or you better meet me. Otherwise, I'm going to send that photo to your family, your friends, your Facebook page, and essentially make your life extraordinarily difficult. These happen also in ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend relationships that maybe are sometimes abusive. And we've seen children get trapped, or even adults get trapped in these relationships because there's threats that if you leave me, I'm going to send this to your friends, your family, and again, I'm going to make your life extraordinarily difficult. And just to make you aware, there's entire communities online that seek to obtain these photographs and blackmail our nation's children. They're called cappers, and one of the groups last year actually gave out a Blackmailer of the Year award. This should frighten you as much as it does frighten me, and that's why we need to be ever vigilant, and we need to be further prosecuting and further making arrests of these individuals. Because this also results in cyberbullying. When I was growing up, when my parents were growing up, they had to worry about schoolyard bullying. Now, with Facebook text messages, you can get 100 messages on your Facebook profile, 100 text messages calling you demeaning things, asking you to cause harm to yourself, and essentially telling you that you have no self-worth. Our nation's children are being victimized constantly every day because of cyberbullying. Now, another thing that we also see, and the Congressman touched on it, is identity theft. A big crime that is occurring today in Miami-Dade County is tax return fraud. Now, our kids may have Social Security numbers, but they're, according to law, most of the time not working, or working different schedules or different restricted hours. So they may not be filing tax returns, and they may not be filing tax returns for a good 10, 15, 20 years, but their Social Security numbers are being used by people for tax return fraud. So they're getting money based upon the children of Miami-Dade County. Now I want to talk to you about prevention. We've touched about the different crimes that are occurring, different things that we see on a daily basis in Miami-Dade County. And some of these things scare me, and as parents they should scare you. But I don't want you to go home after hearing these agents and these detectives today to think that I just need to lock up my computer, I need to lock up my kids' cell phones, because that's not the answer. The internet, it isn't a bad place. It isn't all bad. Cell phones, they're not bad. Just as there are good people in life and bad people in life, just as there is heroes and villains, there are good people on the internet and there are bad people on the internet. So the parents here and some of the children, or teenagers, what can you do? Well, speaking to the parents first, the single most important thing that you can do as a parent is to be actively involved in your child's life. Just as you ask your kid about their day at school, their soccer game, what their friends are up to, what are they doing this weekend, their life, you also need to be involved in their online life. And so what do I mean? Who are they talking to online? Who are their friends on Facebook? Who are they texting when they're sitting at the dinner table or watching TV with you? You need to ask them about their cell phone. What apps are they using, and what does it do? Because the predators that are seeking to seduce, solicit, and lure these children, they're using the apps that your children are using. And you probably don't even know what they are, and I have to learn it on a daily basis, and most of the time I don't even know what it is until I see it for 1 day. So you should ask to see their profile, their Facebook profile, their Instagram photos. While you may have access to their account, as I said before, you don't know what they're using on their phones. You don't know what apps they're chatting with strangers. You don't know what apps they're using to send pictures to other people. You don't know what apps they're using to meet people online. Now, to the parents as well, one of the things that you should pay attention to is if you see a change in your child is suddenly depressed, maybe acting out in bursts of anger, check their online profiles, make sure they're not being bullied, make sure that nothing's going on. Because even if they are not being bullied, maybe if they're just going through a tough time at school, tough time with their friends, kids who are depressed, kids that are having tough times, are the people that are predators, are looking to seek and looking to victimize. They're the weakest of the group, and they're the targets. Now, I'll speak to the children, the teenagers here. One thing that you should do is just be wary that you send a text message to another person, you can never get that back. If you send a picture to another person, you can't ever get that back. That photo can be online within a few minutes, and you're never, ever going to gain control of it. So when I meet with children and I see that they're sending photos, and maybe they're taking photos of themselves, the thing that they never realize is that they always imagine themselves as having a bright future. They don't think that that photo can be up online, and that maybe when they're applying for college, and when someone goes and Googles them, it's going to come up. Maybe that person, that friend or that boyfriend or girlfriend that they had a falling out with is going to then send that photo to all their friends. They never realize the consequences of their action. So the teenagers and the young people here today, just before you send maybe even a text message that's either mean to another person or you send a photo, just think about the consequences of your actions and whether it will be worth it. Now, to the parents again, if you take an active role in monitoring your children's lives, both offline and online, you may not get to come to my office and you may not meet me. And hopefully, even if your kid is targeted, you'll be one of the parents, one of the cases where the parent or law enforcement has stopped the predator before he's struck or before he's victimized the child. You may be the person that protects your own child from being the victim. Now I want to touch briefly on, and I speak to the parents and to the teenagers. To the kids, if you are being victimized, tell your parents to call the police immediately. If someone's trying to get you to do something that you don't want to do, let your parents know. And most importantly to the parents, if you see any evidence that your kid is being targeted, either through cyberbullying, ID theft, or more importantly, child exploitation or online luring and enticing, call the police immediately. But also, make sure that the police and my office, that we have the evidence to prosecute the case. Get that cell phone away from that teenager, because guess what? They're probably in love with their predator, and they're probably looking to protect them. Make sure that those images aren't deleted. Take custody of that, take control of that phone, take control of that computer. If they have a Facebook account, and there's evidence on that Facebook account, change the password, and keep it, and give it to law enforcement. If evidence is destroyed because either parents or children are embarrassed, often law enforcement, the officers here, the agents here, or myself, we can't do our jobs, and oftentimes predators, they get away, looking to strike again. Now I want to thank the Congressman again for raising awareness, and I know that he is a friend to the children of Miami-Dade County. But I also want to thank the other law enforcement here today. I've worked with them, or some people from their agencies, on a daily basis, and I can say that they have been the best law enforcement that I've ever worked with while at the State Attorney's Office. Their dedication, their knowledge, their drive to make Miami-Dade County a safer place, I've never seen a higher level before. Thank you very much.
The next person, I just want to do a couple things I just mentioned, because the students that are here, probably think, no, it's not going to happen to me, but yeah, just more than 80% of college admission officers, they actually look at, review social media when they're considering recruiting students or even allowing students to recruit students. And for parents who might think, it's not going to happen to my child. My child will never do that. Let me give you a statistic. 75% of children are willing to share personal information online about themselves and their family in exchange for certain things. So you might think that it's not going to happen. It cannot happen in your household. But the numbers don't say that. Now, before introducing introducing the next speaker, I already mentioned Headmaster Stan Stone from Dade Christian School, who's here, as I mentioned before, sitting with his lovely family. In front of me is another person that I already mentioned, and that is our mayor, the great city of Doral. Thank you, sir, for your leadership. Thank you for being here. Thank you for always being so friendly, so hospitable, and so helpful. Well, we're not listening to Special Agent Armstrong from the FBI, the Crimes Against Children Squad. Again, Special Agent for
email, Facebook, my and they'll say, okay, now, can I call you on the phone between what time are your parents home? They ask for information, they ask for a lot of things about this child, so that way the child feels a little more comfortable. They're not going to ask flat out, send me a new picture, because you're probably going to get rid of me. You're not going to want to talk to me because you're going to say, oh, that was inappropriate. But if I ask you for what's your favorite color, and then we start talking about your favorite color, now I say, what's your favorite band? And we start talking about your favorite band, and we become friends, then eventually when I say, show me a picture of you in your dress, you're not going to think anything of it. And then if I say, well, send me a little bit more, you're still friends. You're not going to think anything of it. So online enticement basically happens. It's not a quick fix. It's not something that people just do overnight. These men who are out there, these predators, most of them have nothing better to do with their time. I mean, most of the people that maybe don't talk about it that we've arrested, a lot of them have jobs, but a lot of them are living in their home with their mom and living in the basement. Mom's paying bills, so they have nothing better to do than sit there and attempt to groom a kid. They sit there 24 hours a day and think of ways to beat a child. Another problem, another risk for kids are access to child pornography. It's out there, you know, it's easily searched and it's wrong that it's out there, but sometimes kids find out about it from friends and they find out about it from other people in their class, and then they're curious. And so they may see adult pornography, and then they may see a child, and they're thinking, oh my God, what is this? And they become curious, and they search for it. These are things that's out there. If you talk to your kid about it, then in turn, they most likely won't search for it. Distribution of child pornography. These are risks that every day, these are some of the cases that we come across. Kids have access to child pornography, but adults are And then what are the warning signs that your child may be at risk online? If your child spends a lot of time, especially at night, if they're going in their room and they're private and do something that they don't want you to know about, there's a problem. There's a reason why they don't want you to know. If they're only talking at night and they're whispering in their room on a cell phone, and they're also talking, they're chatting only at these late night hours, and they can't do this in the kitchen, there's a problem with it. That's a sign that maybe they're talking to somebody they don't want you to know about. If you find pornography on your child's computer, many times people say, oh, but it's just one image. But what happens is, where do they get it from? If they tell you they weren't searching on it, most likely somebody sent it to them. Well, who would send them who would send them pornography other than an adult who's saying, I want to see if this is something you're going to report to your parents or if it's just something you're going to keep. If your child receives phone calls from people you don't know or makes calls to unknown numbers, this is a big sign, because many times if you don't know who the person is you're talking to and they don't want to tell you, then it most likely means somebody they don't want you to know about. And if you're getting unknown numbers, it's a reason why somebody's blocking their phone. They don't want you to know, they don't want you to be able to call them back or trace that number. If your child receives mail, gifts, or packages from somebody you don't know, if they're getting gifts in the mail from somebody, most likely this person is trying to give them something in order to get something in return. Other signs of risk: if your child quickly turns the computer screen off or turns the room when you come into the room, this is a weird sign. This is a weird sign in life in general. If you're at work and somebody just turns their screen away from you, most likely they're hiding something. Well, it's the same thing with a kid. If they're turning their screen away, you just have to think about, like, everything that happens with a kid, it probably happens in the workplace. So if they're turning their screen away, they're probably doing something they don't want you to know about, and you should probably just confront about it. What was on your screen that you don't want me to know about? If your child becomes withdrawn from the family, these predators tend to try to isolate you, and the reason they do that is because if they can separate you from your friends and family, then in turn they're the only person that they can talk to. So it's a way for them to control everything that they do. So if they start to become withdrawn, it could be just teenage years, but talk to your kid, find out why they're withdrawn. Maybe they're withdrawn because they had a sad day at school, or they're being bullied at school, or maybe they've been a predator and you need to put a stop to it. If your child is using an online account that belongs to someone else, this is a big problem we see. A lot of kids will tell me, oh, well, my account is Heather Armstrong, but my parents don't know about the real account, which is Susie. And what they do is they hide the name so that way the parents don't know that they have their secondary account. The parents are only checking the one, but they really have a second one. So if you find out about a second account, ask them why they have it. Why do they have a second account? Ask them those questions, because in turn, if they're doing it, there's a reason why they don't want somebody to know about their first account. Suspect your child is communicating with a sexual predator online. If you suspect that, talk to them openly about online dangers. Just talk to them. I think there's some brochures out front that gives you step-by-step things to talk about, but talk to them about these things. Review your child's computer, the email, the browsing history. Use caller ID. Make sure that you know who's calling in. That way, if the person's not going to email them anymore because they think you're checking, then they may still call. Monitor access to internet, instant messaging, chat rooms. These are things you want to do. Monitor their activities. That way you can ensure that you're at least keeping up with them. Once you talk to them and you're still monitoring it, they're most likely, maybe they'll stop. Maybe they'll stop doing it. And maybe the predator may stop because they're saying, well, this person's a little bit more difficult than this other girl I've been trying to recruit. Minimizing the dangers. Talk to your child about sexual victimization and potential for online dangers. This is a great time for you all that are here. Just go home and say, I went to the presentation, and these are the problems that I saw. This is a great time to bring it up. Spend time with your children online. Sometimes it's best that, I like to learn with my kids, my nephews, nieces, nephews. I like to sit with them. Spend time with them. Ask them the sites they're going to. Learn from them. They're willing to teach. Keep the computer in a common room. So make sure that it's not just locked up in the rear room every night, because if it is, then most likely that they can do things that you won't be able to see. And then utilize passwords, parental control, filtering software provided by your ISP, like internet service provider. But utilize those things. Like, make sure that it has passwords and parental controls. Access your child's online account every so often. Talk to them about it. Say, hey, I'm going to check it every so often. See if they say okay. They do. Then try to do that every so often. Teach your child responsible online. Again, look at the pamphlets. They'll teach you about some things that are responsible. Determine what computer safeguards are used in schools. So sometimes you may be as safe as possible, but maybe the school doesn't have those same things, talk to your school, talk to the library, say, look, do you have filtering on these things? Are you allowing my child to go to any site that they want to go to? Ask your school before you allow your kid to be on computers. And understand that even if your child is a willing participant of sexual heat, it was never their fault. So make sure that you tell your child that. Like, make sure you know that they know that it's okay to come to you. It's not going to be their fault. And then instruct your children to never arrange face-to-face meetings, never send pictures of themselves online to people they do not know, never give out identifying information, and never respond to messages that are suggestive, obscene, or harassing. Just basically tell them to tell you. If any of these things happen, come to your parent. And then finally, if your child receives child pornography, contact the FBI, police, NICMIC, any of these people up here. And if they receive any explicit information, images, make sure that they contact the FBI, police, anybody that, just make sure you don't release this thing. Make sure that you actually ensure that you keep the evidence. Preserve the evidence and text and anything you can preserve and give it to law enforcement. And try to do it as soon as possible if anything happens. And that's my time. So thank you all.
Just a couple points I want to make. As you've heard now, remember that these predators are on the internet constantly. And they're out there with one goal in mind: to get to our children, to get to our kids, to get to our teenagers. They pose to our children as children. And as you heard now a little while ago, you heard about computers, but let's remember something, and cell phones. Remember that if your kid has a game console at home, that probably has access to the internet and they can communicate through that. And predators use that to target our children. If they have a portable little Nintendo thing, that probably has access to the internet. And predators use those to get to our children. And remember that many times their goal is to eventually have contact, physical contact, to set up a meeting with our children. And obviously things get to a much more dangerous level. Adrian also mentioned that your folders. Everyone here should have, if you don't, please get it when you leave, a folder that has very useful information. That when you go home and look at it, very useful information that you can use to make sure that that we keep our families as safe as possible. Now with that, let me now introduce, I mentioned before, the Special Agent Ronald, who's he's a cybercrime special agent with Homeland Security Investigation. The floor is yours, sir. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Just give me a few moments here while I get some props here that I like to use. Thank you very much for inviting me here. Thank you very much, Congressman, into his office, for once again inviting my office here. I always like to come and speak to everyone. I think it's something very important. Myself, personally, I wish they had something like this when I was back in school. So, as the Congressman mentioned, I'm with the Department of Homeland Security Investigations out of the Miami office. Our office is actually in Doral. My background, just in brief, I actually started in 2000 as an intern. So I know I look pretty young, but I'm actually in my 11th year with Homeland Security Investigations. I actually started with what was known as the Department of Treasury United States Customs Service before September 11th. So, I have a degree in Management Information Systems. For the past 4 years, I've been with the Cyber Investigations Group. Our group assists in a variety of different investigations. I actually have the privilege of being specifically trained as a cyber forensic agent, which means that I've been sent to specialized training that's conducted by a wide variety of corporate institutions that many companies use, Apple and several other companies, to teach me how to extract evidence from a variety of different electronic media, such as laptops, Apple iPhones, Android devices, GPSs, and everything in between. So, Homeland Security Investigations, and specifically my group, investigates, arrests, and helps to convict child pornographers who trade pictures and videos online. You're going to hear a lot of the same things from everyone here, because basically it takes a large force to go after these people. Unfortunately, there's a lot of individuals out there who are targeting children. So these individuals sexually abuse children in the U.S., but also sexually abuse children outside of the United States. And it's something that Heather kind of touched on, where individuals are traveling interstate to go and try to abuse children that they've met online. But also there's a situation where individuals, United States citizens, are traveling to other countries because they now know that law enforcement in the U.S. is getting to a point where we're getting really good at investigating some of this stuff. So to evade law enforcement, they're now traveling outside of the United States to try to abuse children in other countries. So sometimes people ask, why is this a problem? Why should we care? It's not in the U.S. But speaking in Miami-Dade County, it should be evident that it is a problem of concern to everyone, because not everyone is originally from the U.S. A wide majority of people, especially in Miami-Dade County, came from a variety of Latin American countries, maybe a generation or two ago, 3 generations ago. So some of these United States citizens now are traveling to countries such as Dominican Republic. Cuba is one of the countries that are now being targeted by some of these predators here in the United States. That they're trying to get over there and abuse children. And of course, they abuse them in such a way that they completely ruin their lives. And these are individuals that might have come to the U.S. at some point and made lives for themselves here, made a future for themselves here, and then had further generations grow and be fruitful here in the United States and have careers and lives. So this is important, that this is one of the areas that our office also deals in and investigates these crimes. And these individuals often document the abuse of children and take pictures to then trade online when they come back to the U.S. So these images and videos of the sexual abuse of children are electronic. The days of 24 frames on a roll of film and VHSs, that's gone. Digital media today can record thousands of pictures and hours of video. We arrest individuals with thousands of images and videos that depict the sexual abuse of children. So, I figured that I'd start my portion of this presentation to give everyone basically a base understanding of what the power and impact of digital media really is, and why this is so important to everyone here. So, your children and the students here may someday become special agents. They may someday become detectives or businessmen, future congressmen, future president maybe. And their lives are increasingly being documented in a digital medium and on the internet, quite often from the day they're born. So these pictures and video are being consumed in a digital world where quite possibly they're going to be living forever. So again, back to the base of understanding, what does this all really mean? So, brought a couple things here, just to give you an understanding of where we were just a couple years ago. Maybe some of you guys recognize this, maybe some of the students don't. Floppy disk, 5 1/4. At the height of the technology for this, this could store 1.25 megabytes of information. To give you some perspective, today this wouldn't be capable of storing even one picture. So the pictures you guys have taken even with your cell phones wouldn't be able to be stored on this. The average song that is being downloaded off iTunes would not fail this. So we have some other things here, another floppy disk. Again, maybe you can fit a song in here, possibly not. And we go on to CDs a little bit more current, 700 megabytes. That's pretty good. So you can fit a couple songs on there. Can't even see it here, but I have it here somewhere. Micro SD card, the kind of stuff that you find inside of a camera. Should still have it in here. You can kind of see this. It's pretty big. Now they have something, it's an SD card, micro SD. So that's the type of digital card that you'll find inside a BlackBerry or inside your Android tablets or devices. I had one. I actually know I have it somewhere in my office, but I couldn't find it. It's so small. So it's basically the size of your thumbnail. So last year, I presented and I said that SanDisk now offers a micro SD card, 64 gigabytes of storage. Last year was $100. This year I checked, it's $50. So in 1 year, it just cut the price in half for the same amount of storage. SanDisk is currently working on capacities that are near 2 terabytes capacity, and something the size of your thumbnail, and probably about as thick as 2 sheets of paper. So 64 gigabytes of storage, what is that? Gigabytes, terabytes, what is that? A 64 gigabyte micro SD can contain about 32,000 images, or over 14 hours of video recording. So 2 terabytes, we're talking about a couple years away, and something that same size, or the size of your thumbnail again, we're talking about 1,024,000 images, or just over 460 hours, or 19 straight days of video, on something you can fit inside your BlackBerry. It's pretty scary. So this is the amount of data that everyone is carrying around today. Your average iPhone has about 16 gigabytes. Now they're coming 32 gigabytes, 64 gigabytes. I think they're up to 120 gigabytes, I'm not sure. And can hold thousands of images. It's something you carry around in your pocket. Samsung smartphones, the Motorola Droids, no different. In a report released by Cisco this year, their study mentioned that global mobile data traffic increased 70% in 2012. So that means that the amount of internet traffic being done on cell phones increased 70% last year. So in 1 year, it increased 70%. So to give you some perspective, in that same report, they mentioned that the amount of mobile traffic conducted on something like this that everyone carries around in their pocket